we have this identity and we think that we are the identity. And in fact, we're not the identity, we are the soul that holds that identity. And so when you see beyond the personality and the identity and the ego, and knowing that that's just a facade and that's just an identity, what actually happens is that your expectations of people diminish. So you no longer expect anything. And because you no longer expect anything, you can't get disappointed. And because you can't get disappointed, you're just living from your heart and, from this place of peace.
We are here to talk about Eleni's book, Effortless Abundance. And the tagline is really my favorite, Ditching Deadlines for Sunsets. And when I think about you, that is exactly what I see. So I'm so excited to learn more about what are the revelations in your life? Because you started out telling us about your ayahuasca journey, or you called it plant medicine journey, and the revelations you had that you can share with the rest of us during that ceremony.
Yes, so we've already spoken about my spiritual awakening, which happened with plant medicine and how that happened in previous episodes. So have a look at the previous episodes, which we'll link down below. But what I want to talk about today is, as a result of that plant medicine ceremony, I had 8 mind expanding revelations, which really, really shook my life. And not only shook my life, completely changed everything I did. So it changed the way that I saw the world. It changed my understanding of who I was. It changed my understanding of who everybody else was around me. It changed what I was doing in my work life. It changed how I loved. Everything changed after that moment. Where I live, what I do, how my day-to-day living has completely transformed because of those 8 revelations. So I'm really excited to share that with you today.
I'm excited to hear it because not only me, but anyone that's listening or gets to read your book, we get to learn from it also, because the revelations are amazing and the life change is what's so beautiful in you. I mean, you are a different person.
Yeah, well, people say that, but I also want to honor the person and the identity that I held up to this point as well. Because of her, I was previously known as Eleni Mitas. She was, a courageous, kick-ass warrior woman.
Yeah.
And, I honor her because without her, I wouldn't have done the things I did. So now where I am in my life is more, I wouldn't say a different person. I'm now more connected to who I really am at the soul level. So that's what happens, is that we have this identity and we think that we are the identity. And in fact, we're not the identity, we are the soul that holds that identity. And so when we realize this, it's a really difficult balancing act, because then what do you do with the identity? That becomes really difficult. And it's quite a journey, because at the very beginning, I wanted to discard the identity completely. And over the years, I have learnt to integrate the identity with the soul, as opposed to completely discard the identity, because the identity is the ego, and it's very, very, very difficult to discard the ego. And so instead, where I've landed is this place of integration, where the ego is still there, but it's not running the show. It's not in charge of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are still the same loving Eleni or Helen that we knew. I mean, you are a very loving, driven, successful, generous woman. And that part of you is still there. It's just that a lot of you has shifted. So, still that woman that you were, that many of us fell in love with, that's still there. You've just shifted into being more effortless, is what I see. is what your book talks about. And that's why I think it's going to be so incredibly helpful and transforming for so many people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about the revelations. Um, so please have a look at the previous episodes to see what actually happened with my plant medicine ceremony and how I landed in this incredible theater, which where the curtains opened and I saw the behind the scenes of my life, which without a doubt at all was the reality. So the revelations, I'll just go through them. The first revelation is your life is not real. That was the first revelation. And how was it said to me? It's a knowingness. Like when you go into the other another realm, it's like this, oh my God, is this what it's all about? So what I saw was that we were all characters in this movie that we created. So I played a character called Eleni Mitas, and I played that character really well. But I also saw that that's not who I was. And so your life is not real means that it's such a difficult concept to grasp because it feels real. So I'm not saying that, when you hurt, you don't really hurt. It's just like when you're watching a movie and the characters in the movie say they're kissing each other. They're actually kissing each other. Okay. So it's actually happening. The experience is real. So when we say your life is not real, the experience is real. And that's why the emotions that we feel are so real, because they are real, because we're actually going through the motions. We're actually feeling, we're actually creating, we're doing all the things, but that's not who we are. And all the characters in our movie are there because we've placed them there and we've drawn them into our world according to the vibration that we're sitting in. So every single person. So I saw that, for instance, at that point when I had my experience, I was having one of my friends had sort of just cut me off. And I felt very, very hurt because she didn't even contact me when my father passed. And that really, really hurt me. And then what I saw was her side of the story. So what I saw was she was hurt. She was hurt because she felt like all of a sudden when Christian came into my life, like I, didn't need to catch up with her weekly anymore, and she felt hurt. So she was just acting from pain, and that's why she didn't reach out to me. And so in that moment, I felt this incredible love for her and just incredible feeling of compassion for everybody who had hurt me, because I saw their side of the story.
I love it.
And it was just incredible to see that it was not me that was doing all the things, and therefore I had nothing to be proud of, which leads to another revelation, which is your achievements do not make you worthy, because I was just a character. So just like Tom Cruise does all those incredible things in Mission Impossible, are we going to give him accolades for all those stunts? It's just an act. And even though it doesn't feel like an act, but it is the character that we're playing. And so it's not who we really are. And so after that point, before that point, whenever I used to do a live on Facebook or anything like that, I used to have my awards and accolades behind me and so on. And I just took them all down because it was like, you know, not significant. It's not who I was. And I just want to say, I want to honor the fact that you do have awards behind you, but they are not yours. They are not yours. They are your son's. Yeah. So I just wanted to, to make that point that I'm not giving disparaging remarks about, what's close to your heart. But this was about me. And so, it was about all the things that I put up as this is me, and this is my status because this is what I've achieved,
Mhm.
to like, you know what? What happens when we're at ground zero, when we don't have all those things to say, this is what I've done and this is who I am?
Yeah, it's just like they say, you can't bring your awards, your material goods, your money to heaven.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. It's something my mum always says and has always said, we're not taking it with us. We're not taking it with us.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's the first one. Your life is not real. And that's it was a difficult chapter to write because it's really hard to explain, because when you enter behind the curtains and behind the veil, it's such a knowingness that it's hard to explain something you know. It's, for example, how do you explain that you're in love? It's really difficult to explain something you just know. And
Mhm.
so I did my best and I gave lots of examples and how that's actually helped me in life, because knowing that your life is not real makes everything so much easier. It means that we don't have to take things so seriously anymore, that we're all playing these characters, and these characters, and especially the characters that are supposed to trigger us the most, they're playing their role really well, and they agreed to play their role before they reincarnated onto the planet. And so they agreed to be that person for you. They love you so much that they're giving you so much of a hard time. And so when you see beyond the personality and the identity and the ego, and knowing that that's just a facade and that's just an identity, what actually happens is that your expectations of people diminish. So you no longer expect anything. And because you no longer expect anything, you can't get disappointed. And because you can't get disappointed, you're just living from your heart and, from this place of peace. Now, is this my 24/7 way of living? No, of course, because the identity comes back in and I have to relearn it, I have to re-experience it, but it's more and more and more, it's my default way of living, which is no expectations. So, as an example, I'll give an example. On Mother's Day, I've got one son who I adore, and he's in another city. So, I didn't get to see him on Mother's Day. Now, maybe in the past, maybe I would have had a little bit of disappointment that he didn't send me something, or even, do a phone call. He sent me a text, and that's who my son is. But when I'm with him, he's so loving, and I know how much he loves me. I feel it, and I know how much I love him. And so I had zero expectations of my son doing anything for me for Mother's Day. And that one text was above what I expected, because I know that's just not what he does. He just does. He's not this person that does phone calls and FaceTimes and sends gifts and things like that. He loves from his heart. And I just really and truly and honestly had the best day, just knowing that I have that relationship with him, and being very, very, very grateful for the fact that he's here and I'm with him, and he didn't have to do anything for me on that day. And just the little things like that make all the difference in the world when you don't have expectations of others. And we don't take life so seriously, it becomes so much more enjoyable, because, hey, this is just a game. This is just like an illusion, in the sense that this is a massive big playground on planet Earth. This is what planet Earth is. It's a playground that teaches us really big lessons. And
Mhm.
so we choose which rides we go on this magical playground. And we can choose to see those rides as really terrifying if they're really scary, or as fun and exciting because we're about to learn this incredible lesson. It's up to us.
What a beautiful perspective. And what I'm hearing you say is that we make a big deal out of a lot of things. If we could just step back and say, how is the character handling that, or making something of it, the the feelings, the emotions wouldn't be as hard.
What you just said is absolutely right. But at the same time, I don't want to discount emotions, because emotions are real. And so the important thing is that when we are experiencing an emotion, um, we need to experience the emotion, because it needs to move through us. So we need to accept it, allow it, respect it, because there are people in the spiritual realm that like, well, this is an illusion. It's not really real, so it doesn't really matter. Well, that's what you call a spiritual bypass. You're bypassing the fact that you are actually experiencing something and that you need to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an example, with my father passing, I could say, well, the fact is that this is just a game and it's just an illusion, and he's always with me. But my human feels very, very deep grief at the fact that my father's not here, and so I'm not going to deny my human the processing of the emotions when they come up. you
Mm-hmm.
know so they're just as valid. It's just that we can see situations and circumstances from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So we can see that there's some energies playing out and we can get involved in those energies, or we can see them as, do I want to play in this energy at this moment? Maybe not. So by observing everything and knowing that it's not real, but the experience is real, it changes everything.
I love it. Is that all the first mind expanding revelation?
That's just the first
Wow,
one. That's just the
that's
first
deep.
one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
tell us about the second one.
Well, the second one sort of blends in from the first one. So I've talked about a few in the one. So the second one is, you are not your identity. So who you think you are, you're not. So you think you're a mother, you think you're a teacher, you think you're a sister, you think that you are an empath, you think that you're anxious, you think that you're strong. Everything that we think we are is just part of the mask. And that mask is not who we are. This was a huge revelation for me, because it's like, this person that I thought I was meant that, as an example, I thought I was this strong person. So the mask of strength always had to be there. And I didn't allow myself to be vulnerable, and I didn't allow myself to get fearful, and I didn't allow myself to be not strong, to appear weak, because that's not who I am. But when we recognize that the mask is just a mask, it's all it is. It's just the character that we're playing. You're playing this character called Karen Bird, and I'm playing this character called Eleni. Um, we're just expressing ourselves as that character. We are not that character. It's not who we are. We are a soul that's had many lifetimes, and in every lifetime we have a different expression according to the lessons that we need to learn in that lifetime. And so it's a character that we're playing. And so what actually happens with the identity is that we always are defending it. So if someone comes to us and says, oh, this is what you've done, it's like, oh, no, I'm not like that. I'm so misunderstood. But who's misunderstood? It's the identity that's getting misunderstood. It's the ego that's offended. The soul can never get offended, because the soul knows exactly who it is. The soul knows that it's a infinite divine expression of the one source. And so anything that happens in terms of offense or disappointment or hurt always happens at the ego level. And so just knowing that we are not the person that we put out into the world. And what happens is that we shapeshift according to the circumstances that we're in. Do you find that, when you're with certain people, you're more relaxed and you're more different? When you're out in the arena, um, perhaps speaking on a stage, you put on, a different persona then, and then according to who we're speaking to, we're different. It's interesting, one of my friends, I noticed that when she's with another friend, she's this really, really funny person. But when it's just the two of us, she's not. So this is this persona that she puts on because she knows that friend loves that part of her. And so it's all about, how do we get more true to who we really are? So when we're talking about authenticity, it's like, well, who are we? And can we reveal who we really are to the world, rather than how we like to be seen, so that we can have a certain status level? So, for example, this is a big one that I had to navigate, is when I meet a new person in the business world. And when they ask, what do you do? My ego wants to say all the things I've done. But my soul's like, do you really need to prove that? Like, what do you prove by saying those things? Do you need to say that you've achieved this and that and the other? Is that really necessary? Because what would happen if you're just not that? What does that actually mean if you're not that person? And so just going really deep in those sort of questions. And every single chapter in my book has profound journaling questions at the end of it, which gets people to really ask themselves those deep, deep, deep questions about who they really are, and questions that they can answer, not questions that are so hard that they need a therapist next to them. Questions
Mhm.
that they can answer for themselves.
Those questions sound really interesting, and I would bet that they really help people with some self awareness, questions they hadn't thought of. Is there a question that you can share with us that's in your
Yeah,
book?
of course. So this is a typical one. Um, so this is an authenticity check, which goes right on what we were talking about just a moment ago about authenticity. When do I make choices based on the expectations of others as opposed to what feels true to me?
Great question. Something to really think about.
Yeah, it's really a reflection question. And with these questions, it's not about judging our answers, because the way that we grow is by becoming aware. So it's not about wanting to write the right answer and saying, no, I don't do that. It's about really going deep, because your ego will say, oh, no, you don't do that. But it's about going in deep and saying, when do I do that? And, oh, that's interesting that I do that. Don't judge yourself for doing that. Don't like, oh my God, you're still in ego and you do that. It's like, oh, okay, that's interesting that you do that. Perhaps the next time you do that, just be aware of it. That's all. Just bring awareness to it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I love that.
So I'll just get through my other revelations. So,
Yes.
revelation number one, just a quick recap: your life is not real. Revelation number two, you are not your identity. Revelation number three, your achievements do not make you worthy. So, all the things that you've done, it's not what makes you worthy, because you're already worthy. You were born worthy. You
Hmm.
already are. There's nothing you need to do to make you worthy. There's no action you need to take. There's no amazing relationship you need to have. There's no amount of followers that you need to have on social media to make you worthy. You already are. You
Yeah.
already are,
And so many people need to hear that, including me. I mean, yeah, it's a
including
beautiful
me.
concept. Yeah.
Including me. Like, you,
Hmm.
just because you don't have a million followers, it doesn't mean that you're less worthy than the person who does. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean that at all. You
Hmm.
already are. You already are. And then that leads to revelation number four, which is your failures do not make you worthless. Just because you made some choices in the past, and I talk about some really vulnerable choices that I made in the past that I'm not proud of, I doesn't make me a bad person, doesn't make me a bad mother, doesn't make me a worthless person. It's the human experience. And I talk about that doesn't mean that we go, oh, then that makes everything okay. But in fact, it does make everything okay. It just means that we need to learn from all our experiences and not use them as excuses. But everything is okay. Your failures do not make you worthless. The next revelation is revelation number 5, which is your stuff is weighing you down.
Hmm.
Like the things that we think we need in our life. And we talked about, this a moment ago. My mum always has said, you're not taking it with you. So you're not taking a big house with you. You're not taking your credentials with you. You're not taking your jewelry with you. You're not taking your money with you. You're not taking your bonds with you. You're not taking your shares with you. You're not taking anything with you. Nothing at all. You're not taking your achievements with you. There is nothing that you're taking with you. And so what actually happens with all those things that we think we need is that they weigh us down because we become attached to that manic workaholic kind of activity by keep doing because we think that we need to have, acquire. And when I say acquire, that's not just things. It could be relationships, it could be anything. But all the things that you think that you need is actually weighing you down. And when you liberate yourself from desiring anything at all, that's when you're truly liberated.
And the more you need it, the more you want it, the more it weighs you down.
And the more you got to do. And the more disconnected you are with your soul, and the more connected you are with your ego, because it's the ego's job. The ego's job is to get into action mode and to get things done and to acquire things and to have a status symbol.
I love that one.
Yeah, which leads to the next one. This is a really big one, and quite a difficult concept to express compassionately, which is you have all the money you need. And because there'd be so many pushbacks with people on this one, like, no, I don't. You might have all the money you need, but I don't have all the money I need. I've got I can't pay this bill or that bill or that bill. But this is a very huge concept, very difficult to explain, in a few minutes. But you do have all the money you need. You really, really do, because what we're talking about is not all the money you think you need in a week's time to pay that bill that you may not be able to pay. You have all the money you need this very second. Yes, you do. At this very second, you have all the money that you need. You don't need any more. You just think you do. And I know it's difficult because there's been a lot of programming about how much we need money. But the greatest paradox of this is that the moment we release our attachment to it is the moment it just flows to us easily and effortlessly. And that's why it's called effortless abundance. It's not just about abundance of money, though. It's abundance of everything in your life. So you have the money without having the hard work and the long hours and the burnout. I'm not saying that, we're not going to do intense activity as part of our soul path, but it's a different type of energy when you're doing it, which is aligned with your soul as opposed to your ego. And the energy that comes from that is completely different. So it's a really big topic, and one that I hope that I address really well in this book, because it's an important topic. And it's one that you almost have to constantly and daily remind yourself of, because we know that even billionaires think they don't have enough money because they're still they're still fighting others for money. They're still, operating with this mindset of, well, I need more, and therefore I need more so you can have less, and take each other to court and all the rest of it. Why does that happen? Because they still believe they don't have enough money. And so the fact is we all at this very moment have enough money.
Here's a concept I heard, which is within your abundance title, is what if we saw leaves on the trees as money, and money was as easy to get as a leaf on a tree, and we just knew it was going to be there?
Exactly. And that's what it is. It's
Mm-hmm.
how abundance works in this beautiful, abundant universe. We've never been as abundant as we are right now. When we see, the polarity in our world in terms of, poverty and extreme wealth, it doesn't mean that there is not enough for all. It just means that the people that are extremely wealthy are not realizing that they have enough. But there is enough for everybody. Absolutely, there is. But like I said, it's one that I know will trigger people, this particular topic. So you need to read my chapter before you start judging what I'm saying. And also bear in mind that when I speak about this, I am not actually speaking about this from a third world perspective. I'm speaking about it from the perspective of the person that's reading this book. Okay. So, because that's a completely different issue. And that's a completely different book. So I'll just talk about, I've got two more revelations which I'm excited to share with you. Revelation number 7 is there is no destination. This is
Mm-hmm.
huge for me because I was always running towards this destination of financial freedom. And, when do you realize that you're financially free? And it's so interesting because, my destination of financial freedom would mean that I would be able to live by the beach and overlook the ocean. And then when I had my awakening, I realized I did not have to become, a multimillionaire to already have that lifestyle, that I could actually have that lifestyle without having all the money that I thought that I needed and all the achievements that I thought I needed to have. And I am living by the ocean. There's not even a road separating myself from the ocean. Do I own the building that I'm living in? No. That's something else that I had to change my limited thinking that I wasn't able to rent. I had this interesting limiting belief where you can't pay for somebody else's mortgage, my father always taught me. You always have to pay for your own. And so you never rent. And so nobody in our family has ever rented. And so the fact was, though, I wanted to live this dream life now because I'm in my destination now, not in 10 years' time. I may not be here in 10 years' time. And so in order to do that, I'm renting. Is that okay? Of course it is. So be it. I'm paying someone else's mortgage. So that's fine. I'm still living the life that I want to live now, not moving towards the life later. And this leads me to my final revelation, number 8, which is unconditional love is the only currency of the universe. Unconditional love is the only currency of the universe. And before my spiritual awakening, I thought I understood what unconditional love meant, and I didn't. Even with the people that I loved closest to me, even with the people that I adored the most, there was always some expectation that I had of them. Even if it was, I expected them to call, or I expected them to connect with me in a certain way, or I expected them to say something. That's conditional. It's conditional. Or expecting, my adult son to live his life the way I expected him. That's conditional. Expecting him to find joy in the way that I thought, would be best for him. That's conditional. So when you really, really grasp what unconditional love is, it means you love, you love, you love, you love, no matter what. No matter what. No matter what you get back. Now, that doesn't mean that you get trodden over. That doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. That doesn't mean that you don't put boundaries about how you get treated. It just means that you still love regardless. You have the boundaries, but you love. You don't expect this to give that. You don't expect that to give this. It's
Yeah, I love that.
unconditional.
So you can have the feelings, but you still love through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You love through it. You love no matter what. And if we all did that with everybody, we start off with the people that we love the most because that's easiest. But then we do that with everybody. Everybody. Like, the nasty person down the street that said something nasty to us, or the person in a bad mood, at the supermarket that treated us, rudely. Anybody, we just send them love because they're just operating from their wounds. That's all they're doing. And when you do that, when you send love when you don't get love, what happens is, again, another paradox, is that you end up getting it.
And just imagine if the whole world did that. What a
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Just imagine if we all did that, there would be no such thing as war. There would be no such thing as conflict, because no matter how anybody else is behaving, we're bringing them back up. We're bringing them back up. We're not going down to their level when they're operating from a non-loving place, and then we operate from a non-loving place, we go down. Instead, they've got no choice but to come up. And that is the crux of my book. And then the third section of it is, well, how do we put all this into play? How do we live this life? It sounds like, it sounds like a very, unicorns and rainbows and waterfalls kind of new earth that's very hard to implement when you've got bills and you've got dramas and you've got stresses and you've got day-to-day worries. That how do you implement all that when all of the rest is going on? And that is what my book is about, because I used to have a lot of dramas and stresses and things happening in my life. And it's not that things don't happen anymore. It's my perspective has changed. My response has changed most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. And therefore, when my response and my perspective changes, it dissolves and the drama disappears instantly.
I can't wait to read this book. It's going to be so helpful because I also see how you live what you're teaching. You live what you wrote in your book. And if everyone could live free and effortless, what a beautiful world it would be.
Yeah, that's right. And effortless doesn't mean that you sit back and meditate all day and and wait for everything to just appear in your lap. No, it's not what it means. But it does mean that you don't have to push, that you can follow the joy and you can ditch the deadlines and marvel at the sunsets. You can do all of that. So can't wait to share this with the world. And I'm so grateful that you asked me all the questions you did. And yeah, thank you so much.
Well, and thank you for sharing all of that with us. I cannot wait till your book comes out.
Thank you so much. Sending you so much love. Thanks for watching. We hope you loved it.
And if you did, please like this video and subscribe to the channel.
And remember, always connect to your truest essence.
And choose love. We'll see you next time.